All right, we're going to compare two of the best mud terrain tires that you can get. And I'm talking the Toyo, that's the further away Land Cruiser there, a Toyo Open Country MTs, and the BFG KM3 Mud Terrain. So MT stands for mud terrain, AT stands for all terrain. And I will do a video, both Toyo MT versus AT and the BF KM3 versus the KO2s. So just look at the description, I'll post them there if you're, wrestling between going MTs or ATs. The MTs will make more noise. You probably know that right off the bat. So one of the first things is make sure you're getting the right tire size. Look at a blog, talk to others that have done it. If you got a Jeep, if you got a Toyota, a Tacoma, you name it. Sometimes you got limitations, right? You got to do a lift before you can go much bigger. In this case, these are both, 35 inch. So truly, this one right here is 35 by 12.5 by 17, because that's a 17-inch wheel. The one further right here, that's a 16-inch rim. So this is, because 17 is more popular, that's an older rim. So it's a 315 by 75 by 16. So people are like, well, what's that, 315? It's a 34, I believe it's 34.8. And actually, they're side by side here. If you can see that height difference, the green truck is slightly higher, right? Slightly higher. So although people call this a 35, it's actually not quite a 35. So use the website tiresize.com is a good resource that I use. So you can put in two different size wheels, tires, and compare the revolutions per mile, so you can know, how's this going to affect my odometer. Because when you go bigger, and don't change your gearing, that's a whole other subject. So if you go bigger wheels, obviously the revolutions are going to be less per mile, and your odometer is going to be incorrect. It's maybe off by 5-7%. So I know in these trucks, one's re-geared, the other one's not. So when I'm going 70 miles an hour, the odometer shows me 70. If I pull up Waze app to see what I'm truly going, I'm going 77. So it's actually, you're going faster, true miles, per hour, and it's just going to put less odometers on your speedo or your odometer. So tiresize.com is your friend, folks. The next thing when you buy your tires is to look at the date, right? So if you're buying used tires, by the way, there's a reason why people are selling their BFGs used, because they start to make noise as they wear down and they become less effective, like the sipes, and I'll show you what that is in a second. We'll go over all the terminology, but as you can see, on every vehicle by law, they have a 4-digit code inside an oval, okay, about the size of your thumb. Those 4 digits is the week, the first two, so 11, that's the 11th week of 2019, okay, 11/19. If you're buying used tires and they're 10 years old, think twice about it, because even if you go to an American Tire to have a plug put in, if it's 10 years or older, they won't touch it for just liability reasons, or they just want you to buy a new set. So yes, mud terrain tires, they have a wider tread, more, wider grooves. So because of that, when these wear, they make more and more noise. They'll make more noise in their half-life than they will at the very beginning. At the very beginning, they all sound great. So that's something to consider too, if it's going to be your daily driver, if you want to go MTs or ATs, or if you're comparing these two. Because believe it or not, these two tires here, one will perform better and one off-road, and one will perform better if you're doing more daily driving. So consider that. If you have a trail rig and you're going to do most of your miles off-road, you're going to want to go BFG, and I'll explain why. If it's your daily driver and you're going off-road on the weekend, but all week long you're driving on the highway going to work, you're going to want to go the Toyo. And it comes down to just the design of the tire. So let's look at that. Let's look at this Toyo here first. So this looks shiny, what's pretty cool, and I have a video on it. This has a Duracoat on it. So, you could lick this tire if you really wanted to. So when you get your tire, new or used, you have to spray a coating. All this brown stuff and the chemicals and crap comes off. So you get the tire itself super clean, and then you apply the Duracoating, and then it's good for life. So I did this on the rear tire just because it's always back there for show. It's always going to be clean. I never have to armor all it. And you know, when you're opening it up and getting back there, you're always going to rub against that tire. Nothing worse than having an armor-all tire and then all of a sudden you got black and brown crap all over your clothes. So Duracoat, pretty cool. I got a video on that. I'll put it in the description below as well. So on the side, whenever you get mud tires, it's going to be a lot thicker here. These are called the shoulders, right? And then the design of the shoulders, like you see how it comes down, I guess they call this scalloped. You know, there's flex there. There's flex when you air down, because a lot of people that do off-roading, they're going to air down when they're hitting the trail. If you're overlanding, you're going to air down to maybe 20, 15. If you're crawling, you're going to go lower. So check that. That's the sidewall. And then let's look at this one. So both are much meatier than their all-terrain counterparts. So they just look awesome. And then this tire has no dirt coating on it. So it's gonna be dirty. The other one, that never comes off because it's got that coat. And just look how rich and black that is. So pretty cool thing to do to your tire carrier tire. All right, so just check the description on that. And by the way, you know, if this video helps you, I mean, hit the like and subscribe, especially if you want to see overland, you know, trucks. I focus mostly on Land Cruisers, but a little bit of everything. So now back to, this is the KM3 mud terrain. So this is the 35 12.5 by 17. Obviously, you can get this in 33s and in all sizes. There's a huge selection. So this is called the siping, right? So this just helps for better traction. And ultimately what this wheel, this tread pattern is going to do with how wide that is, this actually grabs and then throws the dirt, the sand, the snow right out of your tread. So it's pretty phenomenal. So there, if you're driving behind a vehicle like this, you just see chunks of whatever, the terrain, the sand, the snow, the ice, the mud flying out. So, and in here, you see these little grooves in here. That helps to make sure that, you know, that mud doesn't adhere and stick in there. That helps repel it. And then obviously you have the squishing. So BFG has a little bit more technology behind it. So something called Krawl-tec, Krawl with a K, and then T-E-K. And that's the compound. That's the rubber compound. And it's an amazing compound. It's going to be amazing off-road. But you know what? It's going to wear quickly if you're driving on-road. So the BFG with that compound is going to last you 20 to 25,000 miles. Okay. The Toyo is going to last you almost twice as long. It's more like 35,000 miles. So these little things in the design can truly affect you know, how long your tire is going to last. Those little bars, they call it Mud Phobic. So it helps repel that mud out of there. So amazing off-road with this compound, with that Krawl-tec, with the Mud Phobic bars. However, this is something to consider if you're doing a lot of during the week driving to your office. Well, maybe you want to consider the Toyos. So let's jump over to the Toyos. So it's got a beautiful shoulder. That's your shoulder. It also has siping, but slightly different, right? They're thinner. And you can see the tread, they're a lot closer together. The grooves are tighter. So you have some of that Mud Phobic on the outside, not on the inside. And you have a hook tread. So this means you're getting more rubber to the road, which is going to be great for paved roads, but perform not as well as the BFG. But again, this does not have the Krawl-tec compound. You know, the rubber compound is a little different, and this tire here is going to last you longer. So even though they're both, you know, in the mid 300s to high 300s per tire, maybe the Toyo's being slightly more expensive, the Toyos will last you much longer, so you get more bang for your buck. However, again, if it's a trail rig and it's going to see more of its life off-road, then that's why you want to consider that BFG just for pure performance. Does that mean that this tire is not going to be great for hydroplaning and what have you? No, there's still, like compared to an all-season tire or an AT, there is a huge room for grooves here. But that BFG is going to be slightly better. They call this tread pattern over at Toyo tires their aggressive attack tread. And as you can see, it's a pretty cool tread. And I think they're the only ones that do that hook design. So again, the Toyo tire compound, that's going to give you 35 to 40,000 miles compared to 20 to 25 on the BFGs. And again, it's all, think about a race car, right? It has a slick because you have full traction on the road at all times. That's going to be the most efficient and the best traction on a dry road. But on a wet road, you want the grooves. And in mud and sand and snow, you want, you know, obviously a tread that's going to be able to repel that stuff and keep your tread, you know, the deep grooves clean. Back to the BFG. So you can see with the BFG, like right here, another little nib to help shoot and not let dirt get stuck. Thicker sipe, right? Thicker sipe lines, but you're going to hear that more. And look at the little cuts here. So going in different directions to help repel. So lots of those phobic lines, comes in deeper. Great shoulders. Both of them have sexy shoulders, right? I mean, when it's sitting on your vehicle, they just look great with that aggressive outer shoulders or sidewall, if you will. But again, BFG, this is going to be your better performer when you're off-road because of all those features. But the Toyo is going to perform great. It's still an MT tire, still phenomenal, but something that's going to last longer if it's going to be your daily and you're hitting the highway often. So here we are under the vehicle, and as you can see, side by side here, this on this side, that's our BFG. So you can see the different tread design, right? The siping, the phobic mud repellent, right? To basically shoot the mud, the sand, what have you out. And on the Toyo, those same little lines, they stop there. So there's not as much. They went with the that hook tread design. And both have flexing. When you air down, there's enough room to flex, but you can see tighter grooves there compared to wider. And again, that means when you're on a dry road, the Toyo, because the tread is more narrow between those the valleys, if you will, it's going to perform better on a dry road. But on wet, mud, sand, snow, the BFG will perform better. But both aired down. I mean, for the amateur, are they going to notice a difference? Probably not. And the amateur, or everybody's going to notice the difference of noise that it's going to make when you're driving on paved roads. For even the most discerning ear, I think anybody would hear that. So these are the things to consider when looking at these different wheels. That hook design by Toyo, or more technology. Other technology that's actually in that BFG wheel is something that's called Core Guard Max. So that's kind of the inner lining of the tire itself. So to strengthen the side walls and what have you. So again, airing down, off-roading, that's going to be performing slightly better. All-time driving, you know, if you have a Jeep or an off-roader, but you're driving it to work, you're driving around town 90% of the time, well, you be the judge as far as what you would prefer in that regard. Couple cool features just in the wheels itself. This one, notice it has a valve there and a valve there. So that means when you're airing down or airing up, you can have basically a gauge on one to see how much tire pressure you have while you're pumping air on the other. And then those are bead lockers. So another thing when you're off-roading and you're going to air down, a bead locker is going to help stop from that, you know, compressing of the tire, and then poof, all the air comes out, and now you got a little bit of a dilemma while on the trail. And those are good old Toyota OEM rims. But let's summarize between these two. In my AT versus MT, I will do a test drive. So if you want to listen to what the MT sounds like, look at my, like if you're looking at Toyo, do the Toyo versus the MT versus the AT to hear the difference. And for the BFG, look at the KO2 versus the KM3 video I'll put below in the description to hear the difference. But on both of these, they're new. They both have a little bit of a, sound when you roll. I like it. I play music, so I don't mind. But I put my window down, and I love it. When you're in an off-road vehicle, you want to hear that going down the road, right? And truly, when they're brand new, you're not going to hear much of a difference between the two. I think it's when they wear, and that BFG will wear sooner, that's when you start to hear it more and more between these two. But bottom line, let's look at the main things on getting a mud terrain tire. So for hard surfaces, this is the winner. This is going to perform off trail better because of that the Krawl-tec, as I mentioned, the Core Guard Max. That tire compound is just going to perform better, and the larger tread pattern, right, to kick out and throw all that stuff you're going to be rolling over. Now, when it comes to soft terrain, they're pretty much tied. They're both going to perform great on soft terrain. And then on smooth terrain, that means our everyday roads, the Toyos are going to perform better. And as far as noise, the Toyos also, so 2 check marks in a row, they're tied for soft terrain, but for smooth roads, that's going to perform better. And durability and noise, that's going to last you longer. You're going to get more bang for your buck. But I think that pretty much covers it. So subscribe, check out those other videos if you're kind of up in the air on all terrains. I do have a couple vehicles. Let's go look at them right now. I have a 200 series Land Cruiser with KO2s on 17-inch. So they're like 33s, 17-inch rim. And here's another one. So I got 2 trucks to compare. So these are, I have one with 17s and one with 16s. So again, it's got that whole, this is 285, 75, 16. So that's makes it pretty much a 33-inch or 32.8. And then I have a true 33-inch on 17s. But yeah, you can see this is the all-terrain, so it still has that cool design, but it's not as, there we go, all-terrain. But it's not going to be as aggressive as the mud terrain. And sometimes when you're looking for that code on the outside, so these are the ATs, the BFGs, they're going to give you something like this, where you're like, wait a minute, I don't see a date code. So this is upside down, but that AT11, you need to go look at the other side of the tire sometimes. These ones are 2021s. These are brand new BFG KO2s. And there's the good old KO2. So KO2 for the all-terrain, KM3 for the mud terrain, and then the open country, pretty much the it's MT or AT. And I'm not sponsored or anything by these tire companies, by the way. This is a Cooper SST Pro, the Discoverer, on my HZJ 73. You can see it on the channel. That Land Cruiser there has KO2s. And those are 37s to the right. To the left, that's on an FJ40, totally modified for rock crawling. And because this is my extreme rock crawler, this is the, look at the sidewall, it's pretty insane on this one. Those are the Trepidors, and those are 40-inch tires. So look at the difference between 37 and 40. Huge difference. But those you can actually, these right here, you can air down to 5 pounds, and look at the grooves there. Just huge. No, none of those phobic bars to repel anything, but the SST Coopers do. So you can see that tread pattern, pretty nice. And this one, these make a lot of noise going down the road, and they do not last long. If I was driving this just on normal roads, probably 5,000 to 7,000 miles, and they'd be toast. So I really reserve and trailer that truck into a lot of trails. Even though I can drive around town, but those are pricey. That's about $4 grand, $5 grand to outfit that vehicle with those huge tires. All right, BFGs or Toyos, you decide. Performance, slight performance advantage for the KM3s on the trail, but longevity and you know, all-round use on the Toyos, and they'll last you longer. Thanks for tuning in, and check out those other videos in the description. All right, happy trails.